All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ray. I'm the CEO of Launch Ventures. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about taking your company global and building a international business using Canada as a landing pad for your North American presence. We're going to dive into a variety of different topics, but it's all going to be about how to understand taking your company global and building a foundation in North America. Once again, my name is Ray from Launch. I want to thank Patrick Igwe from LeadSpace for helping us put this together. LeadSpace, Passion Incubator, and Hub One are a tech community incubator and innovation hub in Nigeria, supporting startups to scale. Patrick, why don't you give a quick intro of yourself, LeadSpace, and tell us how our audience can connect with you if they need to.
Thank you very much, Ray. It's lovely to be here. And hi, guys. So my name is Patrick Igwe. I'm currently the Communication and Partnership Manager for LeadSpace by Passion Incubator. And Passion Incubator is an early-stage technology incubator with expertise around innovation program design and tech investment. We currently apply our expertise around research and product testing, incubation and acceleration programs, and we connect startups with corporates, right? LeadSpace is an infrastructure for entrepreneurs and small business owners. So LeadSpace spun off from Passion Incubator. We identified an issue with startups, especially in Nigeria. We found out that entrepreneurs and founders, tech startups, entrepreneurs in general, they were facing an infrastructure problem. So we decided to launch LeadSpace, which aims to support tech startups and entrepreneurs in general. So we are currently partnered with a financial institution, the First City Monument Bank, which aims to be the preferred institution for tech startups and startups disrupting Nigeria and Africa globally, really. So basically, that is who we are. And we are currently launching, or we have launched, an acceleration program in partnership with an international accelerator, HexGen. It aims to accelerate the growth of startups basically in Africa. So basically, that's what we do here at LeadSpace by Passion Incubator. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. And again, thanks again for all your help with our presence and reach into Nigeria. And we look forward to continue to working with you. And we will follow up after this presentation with email and links. And we'll have links to LeadSpace in that email as well if you aren't personally connected to them. All right, we're going to get going here. We're going to run about 30 to 40 minutes, and then we'll have time for Q&A at the end. If you do have questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A box, and I'll be happy to answer them. I might answer some as we go, but most likely the Q&A will be at the end. And again, we're going to follow up with emails with links to video and other resources. And if you have any questions that you didn't get a chance to ask during the presentation, you can always email them to us afterwards. So I always like to start this off with this tweet by Jack Dorsey. We need to figure out how to build a company that is distributed, that is not burdened by time zones, but is advantaged by them. We live in a global world today. And especially during COVID, we now know more than ever that it is very, very feasible and possible for the world to work together and to build businesses at a global scale through remote opportunities, but also interconnected opportunities around the world. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Ray, again, CEO of Launch Ventures. Under Launch Ventures, we own and operate a network of incubators, innovation studios, investment funds, and we also do large-scale events. Traction Conference is one of our large-scale events. You can see the logo there on the left-hand side. Traction is all about exploding the growth of your company? How do you acquire customers? How do you retain them? And more importantly, how do you monetize them? So we bring in speakers, CEOs, growth experts, investors, VCs from Silicon Valley to come and talk about those three subjects. We obviously have not been able to do a live event because of COVID, but we have switched to webinars every Tuesdays and Thursdays, again, with the same high quality level of speakers. These are free to attend. So if you go to tractionconf.io, conf.io, you can register for the webinars, again, every Tuesday and Thursdays, usually 11 a.m. Pacific time. So about 4 hours from now. So your evening. We also do private CEO events in Vancouver, Seattle, San Francisco. We were expanding to New York, Austin, and Miami in 2020, but obviously got derailed because of COVID. But hopefully we're going to be back this fall with more live events, starting with San Francisco and Seattle. But it's a demonstration how we as Launch have a deep-rooted network into Silicon Valley, and all of our CEOs, all the companies that we work with, get opportunities to connect and leverage our resources and our reach into those markets. The CXO dinners are really interesting because they allow our CEOs to connect with other CEOs in different markets and start building relationships, start building network, but we also connect them to investors in all these different markets and create opportunities to start scaling and growing your network. On the investment side, so I co-founded Victory Square. Victory Square is a publicly traded investment fund. We've made over 30 investments, and we have a number of spin-out companies that have gone public on their own. Fans Unite is one that's on the left-hand side there as well. Fans Unite's a sports betting, sports data platform, first blockchain-based sports book. And it's a public company now, and it's doing amazing. We've got another one that's about to go public under Victory Square called Game On. Game On is all about home entertainment and engagement with online content and TV content. I do a number of different investments on a personal level and angel syndicates and whatnot. One of my top portfolio companies called Later.com. It's in the social media space. On the innovation side, we've got two innovation studios, one sports technology group, where we're basically helping transform the back-end operations of sports entertainment. So helping players and agents and teams manage player contracts, sponsorship contracts, player health data, performance data and information. And that leverages blockchain and AI solutions. And we also have a new division that's all about digital art and digital memorabilia and content. So NFTs are a big thing that's blowing up all over the internet. This is a way for us to help our athletes, our celebrities, and musicians in our network understand how to monetize their art, their performances, but their memorabilia and other aspects of their career through digital formats. But what I'm most well known for is Launch Academy, and we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Launch today. Launch Academy. Launch Academy is our nonprofit arm. All the work that we do there is we don't take equity. We are there to help entrepreneurs as much as we can. Under Launch Academy, we've helped over 6,000 entrepreneurs. 300 of them have gone on to raise seed to Series A, collectively raising over 800 million in funding. And we have a VR AR studio at Launch. We're Vancouver's #2 VR AR industry in the world. We'll dive into that in a second. And we are also partnered in Shenzhen with the Shenzhen Tech University to launch and grow tech companies from a North American lens in China. So first thing I want to talk to you about is building a company and going international does not mean you're abandoning your home country, right? We get this a lot from, especially from politicians and other people. When I come and I travel around the world and I talk about building in North America and using the startup visa in Canada, people automatically assume, hey, you're stealing all these companies away from us. Like, no, what we're doing is empowering them. We're able to create, especially like you look from Nigeria, we've got quite a few companies. I think we've got 11 in the last 3 years, 11 companies from Nigeria that have used our program to scale and grow. Like Wallets Africa, DevTon Learn, Pay My Rent, Engulf VR. We've got others that are very, very high profile founders and companies. But they haven't abandoned Africa. All these companies are building in Africa. They're building in Nigeria. What we've done is created a level of stability, a level of assurance, and an opportunity to create foundations to build a global business and tap into the US market, tap into US investors, with permanent residency in Canada, giving you the stability, not just for you, but your families as well. Safety assurances, stable government, all these other things that we know as global entrepreneurs are challenges. And if we can create some stability, that then empowers you as the entrepreneur to go back and focus on your business and do great things, whether it's for your home country or global. And so the premise here is don't view this as how do I get out of Nigeria? View this as how do I create a strong, stable foundation for my business so I can do good for my country, but good for my business and good for my family. And off of that, as we know, as primarily tech companies, hopefully on this channel, tech knows no borders. We as tech entrepreneurs build companies with the hope that people around the world are using our products. We are making a difference around the world. We're changing humanity as a whole. But there is a reality that there are borders, and borders are a political thing, and we have to understand how to function and operate our businesses with those restrictions. And that's what I kind of talk about today is some of the challenges that the borders bring, but where the opportunities lie and how you can navigate your way throughout those borders to build global businesses. And the first thing is, no matter where you are in the world, it is a fight for talent, especially in the tech industry. Finding good talent is hard. And unfortunately, our technology is advancing so fast that talent can't keep up. No matter where you are in the world, the local institutions, the local infrastructure just cannot produce enough talent to keep up with not just the demand, but also the changes in the industry. Like you look at artificial intelligence, machine learning, that industry is changing so fast. Somebody that just spent 3 years learning about machine learning needs to learn more because things have changed by the time they graduated school. So the best way to mitigate this as an entrepreneur is to open up your mind to finding talent around the world. And whether that's remote workers or position yourself in an environment where it's easy for you to bring that talent to your company. And that is what Canada has become. There was an article that just came out 2 days ago where it said for global talent, the US is no longer considered the #1 destination. It's Canada. People want to be positioned in Canada because of economic stability and government and climate and all these other factors. Now, they do want to work for US companies. And thankfully, there's a lot of US companies that have set up operations in Canada for those reasons. But what we do at Launch is we help other international companies understand how to position themselves in Canada and leverage all the immigration programs and infrastructure so that you can recruit talent from around the world into an operations here. And as I said, the world is connected like never before. We have the most documented knowledge in history, the most educated population, and the easiest access to data. And so remote work, co-located teams, internationally distributed teams are very feasible ways to build businesses. And so for you in Nigeria, you might still have your headquarters in Nigeria, but setting up operations, a development team or a business development team or research and R&D team in Vancouver is a very feasible way. We'll get into how all the Silicon Valley companies are doing just that in Vancouver in a second, but open up your minds to understand that that is the way forward. That is how we're going to be functioning as tech entrepreneurs moving forward, having globally distributed teams and positioning yourself strategically for the best possible outcomes and a strong foundation for your business. And that also leads to diversity. We are now, if as minorities, we probably all know this from before, but we are now seeing it globally recognized that the best teams in the world are the ones that have embraced diversity. And it's not just about gender. It's not just about ethnic. It's about people from different economic backgrounds, people from different education backgrounds, people from different life experiences. All those factors come in and give an opportunity that might be better than your competition because you see things in a different light, or your team is able to bring different perspectives to the table to understand how your business can be a stronger outlet and better connected to your end customer. And again, COVID's really given us a realization that you don't have to be in San Francisco, connect with customers, investors, channel partners, or other strategic stakeholders. You don't have to have a physical presence there. Now, we definitely do recommend that you have connectivity and you look at how to have repeatable and secure presence there by traveling or having good contacts and having regular Zoom meetings or whatnot. But you don't have to have an office in San Francisco. And we've even seen that with the local San Francisco companies now moving to Austin and Miami and understanding that the economic realities and the opportunities COVID has brought us is that you don't have to have heavy expense burden office in San Francisco and crazy fight for talent in San Francisco. You can position yourself in other markets. And Vancouver is proving definitely to be one of those key targets. And I talk about Vancouver and Canada, but let's face it, Canada is a small market and it may not be the end market for everyone. Now, for some companies, it definitely could be, and more than enough business can be driven through that market. But for most, it's the gateway to growth. And I talk about the US a lot. We are a 2-hour drive from Seattle. We're a 2-hour flight from San Francisco. We're on the same time zone, same geographic, demographic, cultural balance up and down the West Coast. But Canada has a bit of a more stable government. It's got better climate, and it's not just about North America. We have great ties to the Asia Pacific region, to the Middle East, to Europe, a lot of trade agreements. Canada's brand globally has never been stronger, and people love doing business with Canadian companies. Canadian passport gives you access to a easier travel and business opportunities with not just trade agreements, but immigration agreements as well. But again, when you look back at Canada, a lot of people don't view Canada instantaneously with innovation, but historically, Canada has been a strong grassroots platform for innovation. And we'll get into some of the things that have happened. But in the past, but what's happening now in the future is the Canadian government's created a program called Superclusters, where it's dedicating over $1 billion into 5 superclusters across the country. And these superclusters are where you're bringing concentration in a specific industry vertical, not just by government dollars, but matching enterprise dollars. You're bringing in large corporations. You're bringing in, like, we'll use AI as an example. The AI supercluster is a concentration of artificial intelligence startups, but also universities focused on artificial intelligence, enterprise companies, incubators, accelerators, bringing in a variety of different stakeholders to create a supercluster of innovation on a specific vertical. And like I said, there's 5 on the East Coast in the Atlantic provinces. It's the marine sciences and aquatic sciences supercluster. In Montreal, Quebec, it's the artificial intelligence supercluster. In Toronto, in Ontario, it is the manufacturing and IoT supercluster. In the prairie provinces and the farmlands, it's the alternative proteins and agricultural supercluster. And then here on the West Coast in Vancouver, it is a digital supercluster, all about digital twinning. The way I like to kind of present it, it's all about how do you acquire data, how do you analyze that data, and then most importantly, how do you visualize that data so people can actually act on it. And a lot of stuff is being done in the health sector right now, which is very timely with COVID and everything that's happening around that. And on the West Coast, it's not just about Vancouver. There's a term for the region, Cascadia, and there's an initiative called the Cascadia Innovation Corridor, which is connecting Vancouver, Seattle, Portland to become the de facto region in North America for 3 key technology stacks. And that's blockchain, quantum computing, and VR, AR. Vancouver joined this program, and it's not just run by the governments. It's run by universities, but more importantly, corporations, and two companies that have a massive global presence, but more importantly, headquarters on both sides of the border, Vancouver and Seattle, are Amazon and Microsoft. Obviously, Amazon and Microsoft, very well known for having their headquarters in Seattle. A lot of people don't know that they have a very large presence in Vancouver. And for Microsoft, it's almost 2,000 employees based in Vancouver. A lot of the HoloLens and Power BI and a lot of the strategic divisions are located in Vancouver. And with Amazon, we've always been HQ2. And there's well over probably going to be 6,000 to 8,000 employees in Vancouver by 2023. They're building a brand new complex, 4 big towers. They already have 2,000 to 3,000 employees here, and they're going to double that. But there's other companies like Nike, TNT, Boeing, lots of companies that are joining this Cascadia initiative to try to really drive home the notion that if you think about blockchain, you think about quantum computing or VR, AR, you automatically think about the Cascadia region. And we'll get into the VR, AR in a bit, but there is already a large system in place where a lot of the hardware for VR, AR is being developed in Seattle, and a lot of the software and experiences are being built in Vancouver. When we talk about Vancouver tech, there's a lot of global companies that if you're in specific industries, you know those names, but you might not realize that they're actually based in Vancouver, like Hootsuite and Slack. If you're in the SaaS world, you know these names, but a lot of people don't know that Hootsuite is based in Vancouver, and Slack, as much as it's known as a $7 billion San Francisco company that just got acquired by Salesforce, it started in Vancouver, and they've got a big development team in Vancouver. Stuart Butterfield, the CEO, is from Vancouver. And if you're in the quantum computing space, you probably know the name D-Wave. D-Wave is based in Vancouver. If you're in this gaming space, you know EA Sports. EA Sports is based in Vancouver. If you're in the athleisure wear, Lululemon, everybody knows that brand. Well, it's based in Vancouver. And I put it under tech because Lululemon has done a lot of innovation around textiles and fabrics, but also e-commerce and logistics and distribution. And that sparked the whole athleisure industry based here in Vancouver. If you're in the biotech world, you know the name Zymeworks, but again, you might not realize that it's actually based in Vancouver. And video streaming, everybody's heard of YouTube. The second most powerful streaming platform in the world is broadband TV, and they're based here in Vancouver. And it's not just those companies. We have all the major multinationals have a big presence in Vancouver. As I already mentioned, Microsoft and Amazon, but Facebook has a big office here. Apple's building a brand new tower. Nintendo's expanding and growing here. Samsung, Fujitsu, MPC, Google, Finning, they all have a big presence here in Vancouver. But what's really interesting is the Bay Area expansions. In 2019, this did obviously slow down a little bit in 2020, but we still saw expansion. But there's well over 100 Bay Area companies in that year alone that expanded to Vancouver. And these are not just small teams. These are Tile, Lyft, Postmates, Asana, Segment, MailChimp. They've all opened up offices in Vancouver. And as I alluded to earlier, immigration and talent is a big factor here. But Vancouver's history with tech, I kind of like it to go back to the 80s, 70s and 80s, where Vancouver started to become Hollywood North. And today, there's massive production happening in Vancouver from the entertainment industry. All the superhero movies, TV series are based in Vancouver. There's Netflix is opening up massive studios to film projects here. But again, in the 80s and 90s, this started to spark the visual effects industry. And Vancouver has the #1 VFX industry in the world. 60 plus VFX firms, animation studios, award-winning productions, the biggest names in the industry, Industrial Light and Magic, Sony ImageWorks, Double Negative. That then also started to spark our presence in the gaming industry. I already mentioned EA Sports, but in the 80s and 90s, all the major console games studio had presence in Vancouver. And then that started to shift in the 2000s to mobile games in the 2010s. And so we have a very, very large, strong gaming industry. And that now in the 2020 started to really spark the esports industry. And from my perspective, esports is the guiding star for all entertainment and probably media. Probably more so because the demographics that are in esports are consuming content, interacting with brands, interacting with resources, and molding and shaping how content's consumed that will dictate how other traditional entertainment houses should be presenting their content, because those trends are everlasting. And so esports is the guiding star for all media and entertainment, in my opinion, moving forward. And so Vancouver has a very strong esports presence and industry leaders that are built into the ecosystem, stemming from the gaming and VFX industry. But you combine all that together, the storytelling and the narrative from the film and television, the visual effects and rendering from the VFX industry, the algorithms and the gaming industry, that has sparked Vancouver's presence as the number two VR AR sector in the world. Number one in San Francisco. The gap between 1 and 2 is big. We'll never catch up with San Francisco, but the gap between 2 and 3 is so big that it'll be very hard for Tokyo, which is the number 3, to jump into the number 2 spot. And as I mentioned, there's a good system in place where a lot of hardware is being developed in Seattle, but a lot of the content and experiences and innovation on the user end is being done here in Vancouver. But it doesn't end there. Like, we have a strong history in emerging tech. We have been building companies in the AI, cybersecurity, blockchain, health tech, clean tech, ag tech space. A lot of them are not household names, but like the NFT space. If you're online, you know this is blowing up right now. CryptoKitties, Top Shot, those are based in Vancouver. On the health side, Well Health is a multi-billion-dollar company that's just been dominating the North American landscape right now, especially with COVID and solutions there. On the cybersecurity side, CMD is a big, strong name, but I also want to point out Bloombase and DataTrue. These are companies that didn't start in Vancouver, but they used our startup visa program to locate here, and they've been growing strong. In emerging tech, I also have Boeing and Finning and Fujitsu up here, and you wouldn't think of them as, hey, these are brand new companies emerging. But the reason they're up here is because the AI machine learning industry in Vancouver is very strong, but you don't know their names and you don't see the companies because Boeing, Fujitsu, Finning, and other companies of the like come in very early and scoop up those teams. And they now are part of Boeing, they're part of Fujitsu, they're part of Finning. Because they're doing innovative things around practical applications with AI machine learning. A lot of the theoretical will happen in Toronto and Montreal because of the universities and the superclusters, but a lot of the practical applications, implementations you're seeing happening in Vancouver. And that's why Boeing, Fujitsu are acquiring these companies, because they can take those teams and start deploying them right away on their projects. We're going to start talking a little bit more on the immigration side and the stress and limitations that it puts in. As entrepreneurs, and especially being in Nigeria, you probably know that there's a lot of challenges of dealing with immigration when you get to the airports and traveling, whether it's you're trying to get to a conference, you have meetings, you have business opportunities. We all have this fear as I'm going to miss my flight. That's going to delay my meeting. Do I lose that deal? But this actually goes above and beyond just that individual's travel. The stress for workers that are just like coders or developers that are stationary in new markets becomes challenging. And I use the US as the primary example. People sitting on H-1Bs in the US are in a very positive position because, hey, they got an H-1B. Chances are they're working for Google, Apple, or somebody. They got a great salary. They got a great network that they're building. But there is this fear of, hey, my family member gets sick back in Nigeria or India or Vietnam, and I have to go back home to go take care of them. Do I run the risk of not being let back in the US? And for the last 4 years, that was a very, very serious concern. Things are changing under the Biden administration, but let's be realistic. That US immigration system is so broken. There's so many issues. And quite frankly, 70 million people still voted for Trump. And so there is still a challenge with the sentiment that's happening in the US, and immigration's continuously going to be a problem. And if you're building a global business, that's a headache that you don't need. That's a challenge and stress that you as a CEO don't need, but also your employees and workers don't need. And go back to why these Bay Area companies are setting up operations in Vancouver is because they're able to attract international talent and position them into Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, wherever it may be, with the peace of mind that they have stability and they've got opportunities to bring their family in and work closely with family and put them in a position in a country where family is embraced and not challenged. And they're very stark differences how the US treats family, spouses, and children compared to the Canadian programs. We'll dive into that in a second, but those are harsh realities of two sides of the border. So we're going to talk quickly about Launch and then our startup visa program, then we'll take some questions. Launch Academy, again, as I said, we've been around since 2012, 6,000 entrepreneurs. That 730 is now 800. One of our companies just announced today that they just raised 70 million. Coho, which is a banking platform for millennials. Africa, so we've got a lot of good fintech companies. Vancouver has sparked a lot of fintech companies as well. And some of the fintech companies in Nigeria are using our program. So I won't go into names, but you can probably guess some of them. Creating probably well over 400,000 jobs now globally, just our companies. As I mentioned, we do our Traction conference. If you want to check it out, it's tractionconf.io. Lots of videos, lots of resources, weekly webinars on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Definitely check it out. Last Tuesday, we had the former CMO of Eventbrite. She is now with a travel company, Megan Eisenberg. She's one of the most respected marketing people in Silicon Valley. She gave a lot of context around how to build marketing teams and how to build teams now positioned post-COVID to go out and do marketing at events, activities, and in-person scenarios. Our CXO summits, as I mentioned, very, very valuable resource for a lot of our CEOs. They're private invite only, so you have to be part of our network to access these. And 3 years ago, we created a program called Maple. Maple is designed to help international companies expand and grow into North America. We've now run 13 cohorts. We are recruiting for our 14th right now, over 85 companies, and over 60 of those companies have landed. As I said, we've got 11 from Nigeria. We've got companies from Ghana, from Egypt, South Africa, other regions in the African continent. We say 60 companies have landed because some are still going through the process. Our program, as you'll see, is not something that, hey, I sign up one day and within 2 weeks, I've got my work permits and permanent residency. Like, we are an incubator. We work with entrepreneurs. Immigration is one portion of our program, but primarily the programs are all about expansion and growth of your business. Again, you look at Traction, you look at our funds and everything that we do, we're all about growing and expanding businesses. Immigration is a great byproduct of our programs, but not the essential key elements of what we work on. And so a lot of our companies, we say that 60 landed, there's still others that are in the process going through the programs to get themselves ready and prepared to come to Canada. So we're talking about the startup visa program. So Maple is the overarching program that we have at Launch, the expansion and growth program. A byproduct of that is startup visa. And startup visa is probably ranked one of the top visa programs for entrepreneurs in the world. And we'll get into why that is. It's specifically designed for international entrepreneurs that are skilled in building a business in Canada. It's got an element of innovation. The company that you're bringing has an element of innovation. It's got the ability to create jobs for Canadians, but more importantly, compete on a global scale. We're not looking to transplant companies, take you away from Nigeria and put you in Canada. What we want to see is companies that want to build global businesses, companies that want to leverage the best of the best that Canada has to offer but with the mindset of being international and building global businesses. And this goes back to why almost none of our companies, whether they're from Nigeria, from India, from Estonia, Brazil, wherever, they continue operations in their home countries. They have development teams there, or they've got customer base, they've got investors. Like, they're building global businesses, and that's the nature of the startup visa program. That's what we want to see. The program itself was designed at Launch Academy in 2012, so I've had a special firsthand view of how the program's evolved over the years. It started as a federal pilot program in 2013 to test and see if this is viable. And then in 2018, it became a permanent program. And the reason why this is important is because this, for you as applicants, gives you the understanding that this is a stable program. It's part of the immigration policies of Canada. And if it was to disappear, it would require policy changes. And if you know governments, policy changes do not happen overnight. They take years and years. And so this is a permanent program. It's here to stay, and it's definitely ranked one of the best in the world. One of the key elements here is that we talk about building global businesses and building a company in Canada. The company in Canada needs to have a notion of what we call active management in Canada. What this means is you can't just create a company for the purpose of immigration. You have to show that this company actually has a viable reason of being in Canada. You're here to legitimately build an honest business, and you want Canada to be an instrumental part of that. And as I showed you with the stuff that's happening from the US companies setting up in operations here, the multinationals, it is in your best interest to leverage what the Canada programs have in place for you, because if all the billion-dollar businesses around the world are doing it, why should you? And I talk about why it's one of the best in the world. It's these factors here. It's up to 5 founders, plus your spouses and your children, all get access to work permits, study permits, and permanent residency. You get priority access to work and visa, student visas. Usually takes 4 to 8 weeks. With COVID, that has changed quite a bit. Lots of delays, but the turnaround time has always been very strong. And more importantly, it's priority access to permanent residency. Permanent residency is the equivalent of a green card in the US. And if you are a permanent resident in Canada and you stay in Canada 3 out of 5 years, doesn't have to be consecutive, you get access to apply for citizenship. And so when you think about it, within 4 to 5 years, you can be a citizen of Canada through our program. And again, this is up to 5 founders, plus their spouses, plus their children, all get access to this. And one of the key things is also, this is not tied to your startup. So if your startup does fail, or if you move on from your startup, if your startup gets acquired, or you come to Canada and you decide you want to take a job at Apple or whatnot, your permanent residency will continue. It's not tied to the success or failure of your startup. And this applies to your spouses and children. Like in the US, the contrast, somebody that's sitting on an H-1B, their spouses can't work. The spouses have to file for their visas and whatnot independently. And that is very hard to do. Whereas in Canada, it's instantaneous. It's all packaged together. Now, access to a startup visa does require support of a designated organization. Launch Academy obviously is a designated organization, but there's 3 stages or 3 categories. So there's venture funds. If you can find a venture fund in Canada that's willing to make an investment in your company of $200,000, they can issue a letter of support that you can then use to access your work permits and your permanent residency. For an angel investor, the threshold's a little bit lower. It's at $70,000. But one of the challenges that you have with venture funds and the angel investor streams is that, first of all, VCs and angels don't have, especially the ones in Canada, don't have a business model where they're actively looking for companies around the world and trying to give them startup visa accreditation. It's a burden for them. They do not have the business models. They don't have the infrastructure to do that. There are some that will offer it, but understand what you're getting yourself into, and that they will give you a letter of support, but everything else is on you to figure out how to do it. And oftentimes they don't want you using their money that they invested in you to do that. So you have to be very cognizant of the approach. With incubators and accelerators, there is no investment criteria per se, but you do have to show that you have active participation in one of their programs. And for us at launch, our program is Maple. We do not take equity in the companies we work with, but we do charge fees for our services. But as a nonprofit, all those fees go right back into the ecosystem that you are joining. That fuels our CXO events, that Traction Conference, and other things that we do for our companies, mentorship resources and whatnot. There are other programs that will charge you fees, but also take equity. And there's other programs that will just charge you, will actually make an investment in you and take equity in return, like Techstars Toronto. But the notion is that you as an entrepreneur must do your homework. You should do your research. Find the accelerator, incubator that is the best fit for you, or if you can find an angel investor or VC fund, the onus is on you to figure out what is the best path for your company, for your family, for your investors. There are some requirements as well in the company. Like I said, it's up to 5 co-founders, but each co-founder must own a minimum 10% of the new Canadian company. And this is to ensure that employees and other non-essential partners in the firm are not being brought in under the startup visa program. Some companies will try to put their investors on their cap table and try to get them permanent residency in Canada. That's a no. These have to be people that are instrumental for the business, the founders of the business. Collectively, those people need to own more than 50% of the Canadian company. So yes, you can have investors. Yes, you can have other types of partners and owners, but the people that are on the startup visa application, whether it's 1 person, 3 people, or 5 people, those people collectively need to have more than 50% of the company to show that they control the company and it's their company. So if it is just 1 founder, you need to have more than 50%. If it's 4 founders, well, you collectively each have to have more than 10% and collectively more than 50 to show that you are controlling the company. And the Canadian company must either own the IP or demonstrate that the management has direct control over that IP. Again, to ensure that this is not a shell company, this is not a fraudulent company, it's not somebody just trying to get immigration. This is a legitimate business trying to do business in Canada. And each person must meet the regular immigration requirements, such as meeting language test. For startup visa, it's level 5. Meet the immigration requirements for personal funds, and also standard immigration things like criminality, background checks, security checks, health, financial, fraud, etc. So we're going to take a quick run into our launch programs, our Maple program, and then we'll answer some questions. So at launch, we have a number of business incubation programs. Maple is the going global for international businesses. And as I said, startup visa and immigration is a byproduct, but a key part of the Maple program is about resources and support and network to help expand and grow your business and build a global business. Our Launchpad program is designed for companies that are in North America already. It provides access to a community, our private Slack channels. You get access to AMA sessions, webinars, mentors, different perks and resources to help grow your business in North America. And then for the ones that are still early stage, still ideation, we have our Lean Entrepreneur Acceleration program, which is all online education resources to help you understand how to validate, is your company even worth, or is your idea even worth building? Can it actually be a viable business? Will people actually want to pay for your product, let alone use it? So it's all about the early stages of a business, and we built online programs for that. But as I said, all of our programs are designed to really build the business. So tactics, strategies, IP, taxes, building a strong foundation for your business. And of course, immigration is a byproduct. And as we talked about earlier, immigration is a very strategic thing to think about when building global businesses, because it's not just about how do I create stability for myself and my family. It's about recruiting talent, making sure that talent feels comfortable where they're going. And it can be a competitive edge to bring talent into Canada because let's face it, if you're an engineer in Romania, there's very strong incentive to take a position with a company in Canada if they can give you a 2-year work visa into Canada and give you a path for permanent residency for yourself and your family as well. So you use it as a very strategic tool. Our Maple program, typically we work with companies that already have a product in market. We want to make sure the company has financial stability. Either they've raised funds or they have revenues. Last thing we want to do, again, we're entrepreneurs and investors ourselves. So last thing I want to do is help somebody move to a country where they are depleted all their funds in doing so, and now they're struggling just to put food on the table. So we want to make sure that the companies are in a financial stable position and you can actually build a strong business and create a strong foundation for, again, not just your business, but for your investors and your family as well. We want to work with companies that are focused on expansion of existing business into North America. So you've got something that you built in Nigeria, you've got some customers, and you want to expand and grow that business into North America. And expansion isn't just, oh, how do we get customers in North America? There's lots of other strategic reasons why you expand. Like if it's machine learning, AI, we have a lot of companies that want to set up in Canada because they want access to the universities, the professors, the theoretical applications so that they can build something off of it. The R&D, again, talent acquisition, proximity to the US, investors is another key thing. So lots of reasons why you want to expand, but it has to be legitimate reasons. Our program is 5 phases over 24 to 36 months. And it's all online applications. And we will take you through a series of surveys and questionnaires, and then ultimately put you in front of a panel of judges that will determine who gets accepted into our program. And like I said, we do charge fees. It's 40,000 Canadian over a 24 to 36 month period, and it's broken down into phases. So if at any time you decide this is not the right program, you're able to opt out. And the whole point of this is we want to make sure you're not spending money, but more importantly, time doing something that is not a good fit for you. As I said, it's 5 phases over the 24 months. Phase 1 is a series of online webinars where we want to make sure you have as much information as possible to determine, is this the right path for you? Is this the right solution and right time for this step in your company? It's roughly about 1 month in time. And like I said, if you decide after this phase you don't want to move forward, then that's it. No more fees, no more commitment. If you do decide you want to move forward, then you're into phase 2, where you're road mapping, you're incorporating your Canadian company, you're starting your immigration paperwork to get your work permits, but also more importantly, creating a roadmap, which is essentially a document for us and our team to understand how we can help you. What are the resources that you need? Who are the connections that you need once you arrive in Canada? Phase 3 is pre-arrival. This is where you're waiting for your work permits. And once you get your work permits, you come to Canada. But during that time period, we provide you with other access to mentors, online resources. But a big part of this is also preparing your due diligence material for us so that we can approve it and you can apply for your permanent residency. The due diligence material is really there to design to make sure that if there are any challenges or questions that are raised by Immigration Canada about the legitimacy of your business, we have all the due diligence material there to address it. And then for landing pad, that's when you physically arrive in Canada. You're going to spend 3 months working with our team. And during that 3 months, we're going to connect you to mentors, advisors, and help you execute against that roadmap that you have. You're going to apply for your permanent residency. And during that time, you're also going to start to find your new office and position your company for success in North America. And then phase 5 is roughly about 12 months of launchpad access, but also resources and other things with helping and supporting your business while you're waiting for your permanent residency to get completed. Back to the cost, because this is a big question a lot of people have. So launch program fees, we don't charge equity. There are other programs in Canada that are offering starter visa. They do charge fees and they'll take equity. We do not take equity. We're a nonprofit. Incorporation fees are standard to incorporate your company in a new country. You have to be aware of accounting fees. If you have existing businesses, operations, what is the tax implications and things for yourself and your investors. Immigration fees, we will make recommendations for some lawyers that we prefer that you work with. We have a 100% success rate when people use our lawyers, but there are fees associated. Travel and accommodations, just like you would moving to any other country, you have those costs and living expenses. But as you can see, those series of pictures that I showed you, if you're going to move and grow your business anywhere, Vancouver is a good spot. Clean air, clean water, diversity, beautiful nature around you, and probably one of the best places to live in the world, in my opinion. So we're going to kind of wrap it up. Why Canada? Good pulse of global market, close proximity to the U.S., trade agreements with the U.S., easy travel back and forth across the border, strong government support, as you saw with the superclusters and other things, and quality of life for not just you, but your family. And unlike other programs in the country, Canada does not provide temporary or conditional status. Successful applicants to the Startup Visa program are able to immigrate to Canada as a permanent resident with no conditions attached to the success of their business. And so a very stark difference between Startup Visa programs offered in the UK and New Zealand and Japan and the US, where there are limits and restrictions placed on performance. Whereas in Canada, once you get your PR, you are a permanent resident in Canada and you can apply for citizenship within 5 years. All right, so I see some questions rolling in and I'm gonna kind of run through those. And then, like I said, we will follow up with an email with the links to this video, links to other resources, and you feel free to email back if you have any questions. So first one's from Nelson. I have a US registered company from Nigeria. Do I need to register in Canada again? Yes, you do. So we have a lot of companies that have set up companies in Delaware. They've raised money in the US. In order to qualify for Startup Visa, you have to incorporate in Canada. And this is what we talk about in phase 1. We talk about the incorporation requirements, and you get private office hours with our legal experts to talk about your personal situation. So a lot of times the US company will set up a subsidiary in Canada, and you'll demonstrate how the Canadian company either has mine and management control over the IP, or there's a license agreement to have IP in Canada. We've done this so many times now that there is a path for your situation. We just need to know what your situation is. But yes, you do have to incorporate in Canada. You do have to demonstrate that you are legitimately trying to build a business in Canada and have active management of that company in Canada. Without immigration in mind, how can a company in Nigeria get registered in Canada? So depending on which province you want to register in, some provinces require you to have a physical presence in Canada. In British Columbia, you can incorporate from outside of Canada, but in order to get a bank account and access to other government programs, you have to show that there is active presence in Canada and resources in Canada to do so. So this is kind of more of, I guess, a specific question for your business. Like why do you want to get registered in Canada without immigration? What are the purposes? There's always an answer and there's always a way to do it, but probably need a little more detail there. Do you support healthy food processing companies, business within agribusiness sector? A lot of times, like what the criteria for us is emerging tech. What is it that you're doing that's innovative? But more importantly, how can we help? Do we have the resources? Do we have the network to provide benefit to you? Again, we're not just about immigration. We're all about helping scale and grow businesses from a Launch Academy perspective. And so if our network of investors, CEO, and resources, mentors can help you, then yes, we want to work with you. But we've said no to some really great companies, retail companies, manufacturing companies, because our resources aren't going to benefit you. So why join an incubator accelerator that isn't the right fit for you? And this goes back to my other question for you, as when you look at the options, whether it's a VC, angel, or incubator accelerators, you have to do your research and homework to figure out what is the best fit for you, what is the best fit for your company. Our judges will ultimately pick who goes into our program, but the judges are going to look and decide, okay, well, is this somebody that we feel Launch Academy can actually help? Now, yes, it might be a great business, but if it's somebody that's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. Especially for us, because we charge fees for our program, we don't want you spending money on something that you're not going to get full benefit from. At what stage do you charge the 40K? So it's free to apply. You apply online. when you get accepted into the program, you're given an invitation letter. If you say, yes, I want in, then you go into the program. And the way it's broken down, phase 1 is 5,000 Canadian. And like I said, if you decide after phase 1, it's a no, then you stop. And roughly it's 1 month for phase 1. Phase 2 is 5,000 Canadian again. Phase 2 will take anywhere from 3 to 6 months. And the reason why it takes 3 to 6 months is because you are responsible for collecting all the paperwork for immigration. If it's just one founder, a single female founder, well, the paperwork's easy. It might even get done in 1 month. If you have 5 founders, each with a spouse and 4 children, well, you can just imagine, like, you have to get all this paperwork done. And we want to make sure it's all correct and right before we submit it, because if you get rejected, if one person in a team gets rejected, it has a ripple effect against everybody and the entire application. So you have to be very mindful of making sure everything's right. And this is why we recommend that you use our lawyers, because we know what needs to be there so that you don't have any challenges of denied applications, which then cost more money, but most importantly, time, especially for tech companies. Time is precious. Phase 3 pre-arrival is 5,000 Canadian, another 5,000 when you have all your due diligence done and you get approved to apply for your permanent residency. And phase 4 is 5,000 Canadian per month for the 3 months. And then phase 5 again is 5,000 Canadian. And so, like I said, this is over 24 to 36 months, and we charge you at the specific phases. So it's not all one fee up front. It's through the program. I guess it's a follow-on. Purpose of registering will be to access new market, the software projects that Nigerian software experts can handle remotely. So you're basically trying to build a business development office arm here to take projects back home. So that's a service-based business. We do work with service-based business. It just has to be something that's exciting and emerging. Like, we have an AI team out of India that is building bots and other AI tools. They're building a business development arm here to go find companies and clients for their team in India, but they're also showing that they're tapping into the universities and working with professors to advance their internal IP so that they can be positioned more competitively. So something like that has an elaborate story, yes, that's something that we look at. If it's just, no, we're just building content management systems, CRM systems for custom Salesforce applications for clients, no, that's not exciting. There's tons of those all over the world, tons of them just in Vancouver. So it has to be something that's emerging and again, cybersecurity, blockchain, AI, quantum computing, VR, AR, something that fits the nature of what Launch Academy does. All right, it looks like it's all the questions, and we're just 2 minutes over the hour. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. My contact information is here. Please follow our social handles and Launch Academy HQ Twitter handle. And we will be following up with an email with the recording of this video, as well as links to our program, FAQ, the application forms. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to email back. Thank you, everyone, for your time. And hopefully we look forward to working with some of you soon.
Thank you very much, Ray. Very insightful session. And basically, I'm looking forward to working with you and the rest of the startups and entrepreneurs who were able to join this session. So I would be incorporating our mail and